Okay, now let us get into this evidence, right? Now, with this evidence, it will show you that there is still good people in this world. And this lawyer, Denise George, used her position to go after the financial wing, the financial part of Jeffrey Epstein operation. She's not like some of these solicitors, these lawyers that are quick to defend their names, that are quick to send threats, and they are nothing more than satanic demons. Right? They are nothing more than uncircumcised hypocrites. This lawyer actually has some integrity, and she has done the right thing by going after the financial side of Jeffrey Epstein's operation. Listen to what was done to her, so you realize what is going on. This has to be mind control. It has to be witchcraft. Why people are so quiet. Now, this evidence is coming to us from December 29, 2022. Virgin Islands Attorney General sues JP Morgan Chase over banking services for Jeffrey Epstein, going after the money. Followed the money. The U.S. Virgin Islands government filed a lawsuit Thursday against JP Morgan Chase, alleging that the Wall Street bank benefited financially from Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation and failed in its duty to report suspicious financial activity. The bank. Let's continue. It further goes on to say human trafficking was the principal business of the accounts Epstein maintained at JP Morgan, the lawsuit states. The lawsuit claims that JP Morgan Chase failed to make proper regulatory filings that could have tipped off the government to Epstein's alleged sex trafficking ring of underage girls through private islands he owned in the U.S. Virgin Islands. In particular, the government argues that JP Morgan Chase should have given Epstein closer scrutiny as a client after he entered a guilty plea to soliciting prostitution with a minor in Florida in 2008. This is your bank. And I cannot understand why people give the bank so much power. It is we the people that give the bank our money for them to turn around and want to control us. Right? And in the UK, they even bring in laws where the bank is out here watching people's account. Didn't anybody watch Epstein's account? Because best believe JP Morgan is not the only bank. It is the only one we've heard about. But I believe there are other banks involved. And that is why they had to do what they did to this woman. Because they didn't want other banks being exposed. Right? Because this thing is an international network and there has to be a financial wing. Right? And when you think about how the British government is carrying on with the banking system in Britain, how it is using the bank as a weapon against people. Right? But yet still, Jeffrey Epstein was able to use the bank to carry on his activities. Let us continue to show you some more of what really is going on. All of that happened December 2022. Listen to what happened in January 2023. The 2nd, the U.S. Virgin Islands District Attorney fired days after suing JP Morgan Chase over Jeffrey Epstein ties. The Virgin Islands Governor Albert Bryan said he had relieved Denise George of her duties amid reports he was unaware of a lawsuit filed against JP Morgan and Chase. That is no excuse to take this woman's job. Right? But they had to find a way to shut her up. Because if you follow the money, it's not only going to lead to JP Morgan and Chase. It's going to lead to other banks. Right? And that is what they don't want you to know. People, you're the one who give these banks the power. It's time to take back your power. The banks need us. We don't need the banks. The U.S. Virgin Islands top prosecutor has lost her job days after filing a lawsuit accusing financial giant J.P. Morgan Chase of turning a blind eye to Jeffrey Epstein's multi-decade sex trafficking operation. Attorney General Denise George filed a lawsuit in Manhattan last week, alleging that the Wall Street giant provided and pulled levers through which recruiters and victims of Epstein's offenders were paid in the court filing, right? On New Year's Eve, Virgin Islands Governor Albert Bryan confirmed to several news outlets on the island that Miss George had been removed from her role amid reports he had been blindsided by the lawsuit. You just can't make this thing up. No, after they took her job in January, listen to what happened in September. From the BBC, J.P. Morgan settles Epstein lawsuit with U.S. Virgin Islands and Jess Staley. J.P. Morgan Chase has reached a settlement with the U.S. Virgin Islands and former executive Jess Staley to resolve lawsuit over its alleged dealings with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It will pay $75 million to the territory, which allege the bank facilitated Epstein's sex trafficking ring. J.P. Morgan did not admit to any wrongdoing in the settlement. Okay, so you see, they got to get rid of the woman who is going to make them accountable. They got to get rid of the woman who is going to spread their business out, because best believe it's not just JP Morgan alone. Follow the money, and then you will see how deep the rabbit hole goes. And if this was allowed to go into court without the settlement, then we will hear more banks, we'll hear names of more banks called. No, there's a rumor going around on social media in 2026 that this woman is nowhere to be found. I don't know how true it is, and I would like someone from the Virgin Islands, if you come across this video, to leave a comment how true it is that this woman is missing, right? Because what they don't want you to know, they don't want you to know how deep and how wide this thing is. When you follow the money will expose the depth of how this thing operates and all the connecting parts. It's not just JP Morgan and Chase, but guess what? They had an outer court settlement. So we will never know. Get rid of this woman out of her job, get the governor to get rid of her out of her job, and then reach a settlement. How wicked and calculating can you be? It has to be mind control, it has to be witchcraft. Why people sit and allow this to happen? Why people sit and allow this man to take Denise George's job so that they can do an outer court settlement and just sweep it under the carpet? I'm telling you, when the Bible talk about wickedness in high places, this is a very good example of wickedness in high places. You want to know more about this sex trafficking ring? You have to follow the money. You have to follow the money. Right? I'm telling you, this world has to be judged. We need to pray and say, glory be to the Most High. Where is Denise George?